This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live.
Hello and welcome to the Wednesday Late Late Show with your host, Toby Doncaster. Tonight, I ponder the importance of well-being for teachers, and I speculate, how can we promote health and ultimately happiness in the classroom and in the staff room?
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live. Tune in live at ttradio.org, or to join in the conversation, download the Podbean app and search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TTRadio. Tune in, talk it out with Teachers Talk Radio.
And hello, welcome to tonight's show. I'm full of excitement because we are about to talk about well-being, teachers. Am I the only one affected? And obviously I've got somebody here to help me think about this and tell me whether I am the only one out there. In fact, I'm not. I've been doing some research and I found out that over 70% of teachers report high levels of stress in their jobs. This could be down to administrative tasks, workload, and of course, managing classroom behavior. We work over 50 to 60 hours a week, and which is significantly higher than most other people. And according to Education Support last year, 77% of teachers experienced poor mental health due to the work that they take on. So I've invited Poppy to come in and speak to us about well-being. Hopefully she's got some tips as to what we can do to look after ourselves. So hello, Poppy. How are you today?
Hi, Toby. Can you hear me?
Yes, it's loud and clear. Thank you.
Oh, phew. That's always the biggest worry, isn't it, with radio? But you can hear me brilliant. How are you doing today, Toby?
I'm. Do you know what? I participate in something called a thinking environment every now and then, and I've been introducing it to the classroom, and I ask students exactly that question with the view to listening intently to their answer. And I suppose I'm really excited, and because it's the evening show and I'm about to talk about something that's quite personal as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd really like to sort of delve into it and get some answers. What about you? How are you?
Yeah, equally excited. And I just want to say thank you for inviting me on. And yeah, some really shocking statistics you mentioned there. 77% I think of teachers struggling. And I mean, these are only the teachers that had the time to take part in the in the survey.
Do you know what I
Potentially
mean?
all those others, yeah, they were too stressed to even find the time to take part. So I think and you said about answers, I definitely don't know that I have the
No,
answers, because I
no.
think well-being is so personal, isn't it, to each of us? And I'm sure we'll
Yeah.
unpack that today, how even you and I will differ in our approaches to well-being. But I think the one thing that I do want to share with you today is maybe some of kind of my lived experience around, I think, as a teacher as well, you don't always know how to look after yourself at the start. And the one thing I've learned now, I've been teaching for 18 years, just going into my
Wow.
19th year.
Wow.
Um, I know, I don't live that one. Thank you, Toby. Thank you.
Wow.
But I think, like with anything in life, experience is the greatest knowledge we have. And if I look back at when I was teaching age 21, I certainly had no self-care strategies. I was not caring for my well-being. And I would only say it's the last few years that I've really realized the importance of it. And today I'm hoping to hear some of the things that you do and showing some of the things that I do. And if any listeners are listening, then maybe
Definitely.
they'll share. And I think
Yeah.
that's the best thing as well, just learning from each other, not being afraid to try something new. So maybe we'll both take away something new we can try for our own well-being.
Well, do you know what? Um, I'd say it was almost 10 years ago. I've been working in the same institution for 24 years now. But 10 years
Wow.
ago, I know, but this was when there was money. When there was money,
Mm.
we had yoga sessions once a week. And I was a bit dubious initially. It was like, do I really want to go for this? But I it was quite strange. The lady who started it, she started the first session, and I turned up for it. I said, I'll give it a go, and I was the only
Hmm.
one there, and we made such a
Wow.
connection of peace and tranquility, and it was like, oh, I like this so much, I'm going to keep coming to it, and I've been practicing yoga on and off for 10 years. I can safely say,
Hmm.
and I find that a great source of comfort. It's weird. They talk about being bodily aware, with yoga,
Hmm. Hmm.
and that's the idea. Is that I start to feel different parts of my body and think, oh, this doesn't feel very comfortable. I'm not sitting very comfortably. My posture's not very good. My breathing's tightened up, you know, and a few quick sniffs of air and, sort of like rolling up the shoulders and things like that. And I'm like, okay, I'm back in my comfort zone, I suppose,
Yeah. Love
you know.
that. I love that.
So that's what I have. It's one of the tools in my arsenal is
Do
like I
you still
said, is
practice
yoga.
yoga kind of frequently now, or?
I'm cheating. Right. What what happened? I I didn't have time to go to the gym to practice yoga. And I realized, sort of like 2 years later, I'm spending loads of money on the gym and not showing up. And I thought, right, I'll cancel that. So cancelled the yoga. Then the lockdown hit, so nobody's
Oh,
going anywhere,
yes.
you know. And it was quite strange. I was more focused on work than focusing on myself,
Wow.
and it took another 2 years, so we're talking 22 to 24, for me to realize, do you know what, I really need to spend some time. you know you mentioned a word there, self-care. I need to spend some time doing some self-care, and
Hmm.
I'm proud to say that my wife and I have done our first month of Pilates once a
Wow,
week.
congratulations,
I know, right?
Mr. Toby. Brilliant.
you know and I mean, that's you know it's strange. It's sort of like I dropped it completely. I dropped the habits completely, and even today I'm thinking, oh, I shall do some back exercises. I shall lie on the floor and look after my back, because I've got a very weak lower back, and I'm thinking, yeah, I've got to look after that.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
it's come back now, that sort of bodily awareness, and sort of self-care, and sort of thinking about, okay, how do I feel at the moment? How's the posture? Are there any aches and pains? What can I do about those aches and pains?
Hmm. Hmm. I
What
love
about
this. It's,
you?
it's, it sounds
Yeah.
really mindful. I mean, all of that for you sounds very mindful, doesn't it? In acknowledging how you're feeling, how you're
Yeah.
sitting, feeling present. I love that. That sounds super mindful. As for me, so actually I've never admitted this live on radio. I have never done yoga.
Okay.
So maybe that's what I'll try, or Pilates like you and your wife. I don't have very good like posture and balance. Like I often joke that I do a lot of like mental workouts, but not physical workouts. So maybe I have to give it a go. But I certainly do love the acknowledging of like being in yourself. So when I'm sitting at my desk, or I often stand up to work. So there's mixed reviews on kitchen islands, but I love a kitchen island, and I have one in my house. And my favorite place to work is with my laptop on the kitchen island. Luckily, it's got a plug in the island, so my laptop's always just on there. And I stand up to work, and I absolutely love it because I find that I'm just very conscious of my posture, and I'm constantly moving, which like
Hmm.
suits me really well. So if I'm in a Teams meeting, I'm not quite one of those people on a treadmill. Toby, I don't know if you've ever seen those people on treadmills in Teams
While
meetings.
they're talking, yeah, yeah.
Well, that's talking. Yeah, I'm not quite that level, but certainly I love standing in a meeting. I'll normally be standing up. Once the meeting finishes, then I'll move to the sofa and I'll be just like slumped over doing my emails.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I
yeah.
do find mixing up, especially when I'm working from home, if you have the luxury of working from home, anyone listening, or a lot of schools are now considering people having their PPA from home. I think it's really useful to really think, where are you working, how are you working,
Mm, mm,
and could standing be better, for example? So the way that I guess I work on it, without the kind of focus that you have, but is definitely about being present and starting a Teams meeting, exactly what you said, starting a Teams meeting by like rolling my shoulders, sitting up straight, taking some really good breaths. It's amazing how grounding that can be, isn't it?
mm. I mean, I was just thinking, along the lines of being mindful. Um, I I get told off for this by Mrs. T. Um, I have routines. So like when I wake up, I have to do certain things to get myself going. So I have to come. She even commented once, because I wear glasses. She commented that I came downstairs, made myself a coffee, drank it, and I hadn't even got my glasses on. I did it blind, literally, you know. And I did that blind, you know. But I am very fixed in my routines and how I do things. And if something comes and disturbs me, I get quite. I can't say. I can't say irritated, but I feel a bit lost, as in,
Hmm.
what's going on here?
Hmm. Hmm.
What am I supposed to be doing next? So yeah, for me, it's routine. I need to have the routine. I need to know what I'm doing, to the point where, uh, can you? I mean, you've been teaching 19 years. I've been teaching 30 years. I still plan.
Wow.
I
Wow.
know.
Okay, you win. You win this one. I'm catching you up.
But I still plan lessons. I still plan every single
Hmm.
step, what I'm going to be doing next, so I know, you know, how long is the activity? Is it? And I'm thinking, is it going to be, too long? Is it going to bore the learners? Are they? What can I do to get them to move around? What can I do to get them to do something else? What can I?
Hmm. Hmm.
That 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 sense of routine has to work. Otherwise, I don't know. It's almost like, it falls to pieces. Do you?
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I was going to come and say that's really interesting because I'm the opposite. So we've already found a couple of differences.
There you
Um,
go.
I definitely thrive when I'm pretty much flying by the seat of my pants. I don't know if that's a correct term I can use on the
Yeah,
radio.
yeah, yeah.
But very much like so many colleagues, because now I teach at university. So I was a primary school teacher. I now teach at university, and so many colleagues will say to me, "Oh, should we meet, next Monday?" I'm like, I survive 24 hours at a time. I don't know what's happening next week, because such is the nature of the university beast that it's a very movable feast. But yeah, the amount of colleagues who will ask me, what are you doing next Monday, next Friday? And I really don't know. Like, even if you catch me 9 o'clock in the morning, I won't know what's happening. It's all in my Outlook calendar, and we'll just work through the day as it comes, as the notifications pop up. So I kind of enjoy, and I think that's why I love working at university now, because it has that very every day is different. I know we say in the classroom, don't we, every day is different, and I do think that's
Yes.
true, but
Yeah.
the actual routine is very rigid, but at
Mm.
university is very, very different. And I think that's why I finally feel like I've, I guess, found my kind of education tribe, because every day is different, and that really works for me. It's almost like every day is a surprise. Like, what's happening today? But that works really well for me because I do have a very low boredom threshold, and I think if I had a set routine, I would probably cry.
Mm. No, do you know what? You've given me a thought, which is that, because I'm thinking out loud here. Learners, I work with 16 to 19-year-olds predominantly. I've also got a cohort of Key Stage 4. So they're 14 to 16-year-olds.
Okay.
And I'm just thinking, is that the sort of world that we're in now, where things are very sort of ad hoc, very sort of spontaneous, you know, different activity, different maybe sort of like a learning style, a modality of learning, if you like. So, this moment I'm going to watch a video. Okay, in 5 minutes time, I'm going to write something down and make notes. I'm going to discuss something with a partner. I'm going to read about something. I'm going to do a bit of research online. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm wondering whether that's the world that we're
Hmm.
entering now.
It's,
Maybe.
it's an interesting question. I mean, or does it just show, even for you and I, as experienced educators? Okay, you with 30, me with 19 years under our belt, but even
No,
us
come
as
on, we're both
adults,
experienced. Yeah, yeah.
but even us as adults, we work in different ways, and that's always a good reminder, isn't it? Because there will be children in our classrooms, or for me, adults in our classroom that need a rigid routine, and there will be those that actually need things to be mixed up and fresh. So I don't know whether that has changed. Certainly, I've seen in my students that the way they access learning has changed.
Mm,
But I,
mm,
I
mm.
think as humans, maybe there'll always be some of us that prefer the safety of routine, and some that prefer
Yeah.
surprises. Maybe that's part of our well-being, isn't it? It's finding where we belong. But it
Yes.
sounds like you're doing amazing work with your young people, and it suits you. And now I found work with adults suits me. So maybe, that also shows that for any teachers listening, you do have transferable skills. And if you start feeling stagnated in the classroom, maybe
Mm,
consider
mm.
switching year group. Obviously, within realm of your qualifications, but if you told me, I've been lecturing now for 7, 8 years. If you told me 8 years ago that I would end up teaching adults, I wouldn't have believed you. I mean, they're all taller than me. They're all wiser
Mhm.
than me. Many of them are older than me.
Wow, wow,
And
wow.
and I would never have thought that would be my happy place. But now it just fits me. And so because I know we have problems, don't we, with teacher retention and all those stats you said at the start, Toby, around teacher
Yeah.
unhappiness. Maybe because it's also a good reminder to think maybe it's just the school that's not right, but maybe it's the age group that's not right. And I think my well-being now is the best, honestly, the best it's ever been. And I think part of that comes through the joy I'm finding in my job, because what's that phrase? If you love your job, you'll never work a day in your life. Is that the phrase?
Yes, that's it. Yeah, yes,
Yeah. And I
exactly
feel like
that.
that. Do you feel like that?
I think I do love what I do. I don't think I'd be able to go into work and do it if I didn't. What I it's it's a difficult one to explain. It's the pleasure of the pain, you know. Thinking creatively causes me such a sort of, it takes me a couple of hours to think of something that I can do productively.
Mm.
Um, you know, uh, Classroom management, behavior management. Saying over and over again, put your phone away, put your phone away, put your phone away, put your phone away. Um, reminding people, to have equipment, having to tell them off for not having equipment. All of these things. It's knowing that what I'm doing is I'm helping to we for want of I mean, we say educate the next generation, but I'm helping build the next generation. They're going into the workplace, they're going to be doing something. I want them to be successful in their lives, so it's worth doing this in order to help them. But I enjoy the creativity of it. I i enjoy seeing learners' faces light up when I show them something new and exciting.
Oh, love that.
I that
Love that.
keeps me going.
Hmm.
I had one today, and I'm about to do it with the Key Stage 4s tomorrow. But I did it with a group of adult learners today. I showed them how to remember 10 new words using a story.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it like a
So
mind? I remember mind palaces. Is it like the old mind
it's a mind
palace?
palace. Yeah.
Oh my
You
gosh.
tell,
I have
yeah,
not
you
thought of those for so long, Toby. I love that you've reminded me of them. So were they like kind of creating that visual picture in their mind and a little
Yeah.
story?
So,
Oh, I love it. And could
telling
they
a
do it?
story. Yes, they could. And it was a bit they sort of looked at me and I said, "Look, let's I'll show you." I said, "Let's just suggest 10 random words." And they suggested 10 words and I put them up on the board. And I said, "Okay, so the first word was excitement, and I said, I'm really excited today. I'm full of excitement because I'm going to see some classmates from school before. I'm a bit nostalgic, that was the next word
Wow, they're
because
big
I had
words.
such good, yeah, I had good times at school, but some of it was bad as well. I want to extend this a little bit, and I showed them. I was standing there in front of them, and I'm telling the story without looking at the words, and they went, "This is something we've never seen before." So you
Wow.
going back to what you were saying about surprises, um, that's part of the pleasure, to find something new and sort of like a new way of educating people. Have you tried this?
Yeah,
Have you thought of doing it
definitely.
like this? Um, and to me, they might seem old because I've done them year after year after year. So I have to keep refreshing things and I have to keep on finding
Hmm.
new ways of doing things. I've had classes where I said, okay, you've just read an extract. Now draw a scene from the extract, and people look at me and say, "What? Well, this isn't an art class." And I said, "No, no, but you will never forget the story."
Yeah, and just opening people's minds to a new way of doing things, isn't it? And
Yeah.
probably for some of those young people in your class, they'll still be using that mind palace when, whatever they go on to next to remember something. And actually, a funny story, and for any listeners listening, you've reminded me now, but now I'm so old, I forget that I used to do this. I used to use the mind palace to make
Okay.
my shopping list. So
Oh,
I used
okay.
to say if I needed, I don't know, some toothpaste and cornflakes and milk, I'd imagine like I don't know, a duck floating on a sea of milk in a bowl of cornflakes, like rowing with the toothpaste tube, whatever. Like, and I used to
Brushing
challenge.
its teeth. Yeah, brushing its
Yeah,
teeth while it
you've
floats around.
reminded.
Yeah.
I used to honestly, that was something I tried. That must be like 10 years ago. That's really funny, that little memory. But yeah, I think that's the great thing about teaching is that if you're in love with it yourself, like that shows through what you do, and we've all seen those teachers who are struggling and not enjoying it, and you can see it in the lessons, and it's not through their fault, is it? But sometimes it's just that they're tired and they've fallen out of love with what they're doing. And if I look back at when I was at school, I wish I'd had a teacher like you, Toby. I certainly didn't have someone who wanted to help me with next steps. I actually, again, I don't know why I'm oversharing on your show, but my oldest son, he's 13, and he's starting to think about GCSEs. And
Yes.
he was saying to me like, oh, Mum, like, how did you do in GCSEs, and what did you do for AS level and A level? And I actually told him, and now I'm telling you, Toby, and listeners, dear listeners, that I actually got a U in one of my AS levels. I chose biology, but clearly biology didn't choose me because I actually chose it just because I thought the teacher was fun. Um,
Yes.
but in the end, I ended up with a U, and my son was shocked. He was like, "What does U even stand for?" I was like, "It was unclassified." I was like, "It was so poor." But luckily it was an AS level, and I didn't do it for A level, surprisingly. But um, yeah, I don't think I always had those teachers who had that passion. So it's really cool to hear that you do. And I think that just supports your well-being as well, doesn't it? When you finish, when all
Yeah.
those students go home at the end of the day and you feel like you've had those little nuggets throughout your day, not the whole day, because there will be those awful moments and the arguments and the everything else. But when you've had those little nuggets, that's what you have to hold on to, isn't it? You've
Yeah.
potentially taught someone a mind palace who's going to be using it when they're 80, and that's just so super cool, isn't it?
I don't think that, well, talking about mind palaces, I don't think they quite realize the power just yet. I think once once we come back together next week and I say, "Do you remember the mind palace that you created last week?" and they say, "Yes." And do you remember
Oh
the word
yeah,
you gave me?
cool.
Yes. Then then there'll be some sort of impact. And I think maybe, you know, we're talking about teachers' well-being and teachers burning out. And I think maybe that's the burnout, is that the rewards seem so minimal,
Hmm.
and it's hard to see progress being made because you have to put in so much effort into producing that progress. Let me explain it a little bit clearer. So I teach GCSE English. So the way I can show progress being made is if I mark their work, which means taking in their work, sitting down, reading handwriting that's not the best, you know, making corrections while I'm going, and then at the end of it, I still have to say, you know, um, what I think of the piece of work, pointing out the positives,
Hmm.
and they can be minimal, and then not overloading the learner with all the things that they've got to do to improve their work. Now, to do that for one piece of work, that will take, let's say, 10 minutes.
Yes.
I've got I've got 60 students,
Wow.
you know.
Yeah.
Where's the time, and yet, and this is what motivates me, is like, this week they sat down and wrote a story. They re I Every single student loved the idea. It was a Gothic story, and I explained what Gothic was all about. And I said, I want to see corpses, rotting corpses, and death and decay, and I want rotting staircases, and I want strange sounds, and I want your worst nightmare, and I want it on a piece of paper.
Love it.
And yeah, but they had it in their work. This one group yesterday had it in their work, and I came out of the classroom. Right, so we're talking, what, 10 minutes after they've handed in their work, and one student pipes up, "Sir, have you read my work yet?" And I'm like, "You haven't given me a chance. I haven't even." But do you see,
Yes.
they want that appreciation.
Yes.
That's that. I mean, that motivates me to try, but it's so hard.
Yeah. It is so hard. But I mean, lovely that they asked and that they cared.
Yeah.
But
Have you
there's
read it?
definitely yeah, there's definitely just not, when you're a teacher, there are not enough hours in the day. And then by the time you get home, the last thing you want to do is all the marking. And then when are you meant to eat or rest? And then you're up super early the next day. And I think that's the problem. The early mornings and late nights. And I mean, again, back to what we said at the start. It's such a personal journey, kind of learning to care for yourself. And I know some teachers, like one of my teacher friends, um, he always said, my friend Martin, he always makes on a Sunday night his food ready for the whole week for his teacher lunches. So he
Wow.
makes five, Tupperwares of food, and
Huh.
but just for me, like the thought of that makes me like feel so trapped. Like I don't know what food I'm gonna feel like. Like I don't want to commit on a Sunday night that I'm gonna have pasta all week. But for him, he then knows that's one less thing he's gonna do. And so I've learnt little tweaks like that. So for example, I have to make three packed lunches in my house, none of which are for me as well. Kind of like teaching. Often we're doing everything for everyone else, but what I'll do, because I used to get up early, have to make the packed lunches, and it was so stressful. Now I just always make them when the dinner's cooking. So tonight, oh my God, Toby, I had such a good dinner tonight.
Oh
I
yeah, go
had
on then.
sausage, mash, leeks. in a
Wow.
giant Yorkshire pudding. You know, one of
Wow.
those
Wow.
big,
Wow.
like
Wow.
pretending I'm
Yeah.
a Viking with like a kind of a Yorkshire pudding plate. So while that was cooking, that's like 20 minutes, I was like, right, I'm going to make the packed lunches. So kind of being time smart definitely is good for my well-being, because then in the morning when the alarm goes off, I know, oh, I can have 10 minutes snooze, the lunches are all good to go. So I think it's thinking what's right for you, and then just
Mm,
trying
mm.
to use your time. So definitely the times that I try and do stuff is when your dinner's cooking, there's not enough time to, watch a bit of your TV show or whatever, or mark some books. Use that to prepare something for the next day, whether it's ironing your outfit ready for the next day, or that's another thing that I've done on days when I go to uni is I'll put my outfit ready the night before. There's nothing worse than scrabbling around, I've got no clothes, I've got nothing to wear. So just those little bits and bobs that can definitely impact your well-being, because you just will be less stressed in the morning. I mean, do you do anything like that, Toby? Like prepare stuff the night before?
Well, I have a row of polo shirts that I just neatly arrange in my wardrobe in my
This
drawer,
sounds very organized. Is it like
and I just
Monday
take
shirt,
the next
Tuesday?
one. Yeah, Monday, Tuesday, just take the next one, just take the next one. And then when, bless her, she's the one that does it. When she irons, when, my wife irons my polo shirts, I put them at the back of the drawer, um,
Wow, I
so that
love
I
this
don't reuse,
organization.
I don't use the t-shirts. So that's what happens in the Doncaster house.
Nice. And it's just one less thing to worry about, isn't it? You
Exactly.
just know that is organized. So yeah, that's definitely good for your well-being, just having it all.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order. Happy reading.
Are you a teacher who has concerns about your students' low reading levels? Are you also worried disadvantaged students won't be able to catch up? The online reading development program, Dreambox Reading Plus, adapts to a student's skill level, accelerates reading progress, and helps students acquire a wide vocabulary. The patented technology develops reading fluency and supports the transition to increased text complexity from Key Stage 2 to Key Stage 3 and 4, where language and vocabulary are more challenging. You can try the program with a free 4-week pilot today. Search Reading Solutions UK to find their website and request your free pilot.
How do we stop teachers marking books on their kitchen table on a Sunday night instead of wanting to spend time with their family? Is live marking truly cutting-edge practice? What if I told you that I could provide evidence of verbal feedback and its impact on student outcomes? Now, traditional marking, time and time again, is reported as the #1 reason why teachers leave the profession. It trumps behaviour issues and teacher salary. In Guide to Feedback, I share 9 case study skills that demonstrate 9 different ways to provide marking and feedback, all evidenced by student outcomes. Now, not every school will be ready for this, but hopefully you are ready to start your Feed Up and Feed Forward journey.
The Teacher Toolkit Guide to Feedback is out now, and you can get an exclusive 30% discount when you order Teacher Toolkit Guide to Feedback from Bloomsbury.com. Just use the code TTRGTF at the checkout. That's TTRGTF, and it expires 30th of November. Happy reading.
Do you ever wish you could sit down with other teachers and delve into the challenges and opportunities we face? Well, that's exactly what Table Talks at Bet UK is all about. Join small roundtable discussions based on your selected topics to share insights, learn from peers, and tackle the big issues in education, all in a sponsor-free environment. This is your chance to connect and collaborate like never before. Be part of the conversation at Bet UK in January 2025. Visit uk.betshow.com to learn more.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News.
Teacher Tap blog has published its latest update. Recent questions have focused on teachers' overall satisfaction with work at this point in the term and year. A recent question about what can cause stress for teachers suggests that student behaviour is top of the charts, followed by admin tasks and pastoral concerns for pupils. Senior school staff, however, were more likely to focus on pastoral concerns, followed by relationships with parents, and then accountability. Middle leaders feel the most stress over admin tasks. Teacher satisfaction is a key focus in any discussion on retention and recruitment, and it's recruitment that government have focused on with their latest announcement on bursaries for new teachers entering the profession. A Department for Education update published on the government website contains details for the 2025 to 2026 academic year. Bursaries in some science subjects, maths and computing, are £29,000. £10,000 is available for trainees in art and design, music and RE, with English trainees qualifying for £5,000. Bursaries for undergraduates studying for a course including QTS in some sciences, maths, computing or languages are also on offer. Full details can be found on the .gov.uk website. For support staff, legislation to reinstate their negotiating body, the SSSNB, was introduced in Parliament via the Employment Rights Bill. With many schools expressing concern over difficulties in recruiting key support staff, and those already employed concerned over low pay, this could be key. Schools Week covered the story, saying it was part of attempts to establish national terms and conditions, fair pay and career progression routes. The changes will apply to maintained schools and academies. This currently do not have to follow national pay rules. The SSSNB was scrapped in 2010, but the Department for Education said the reintroduction of it makes a key milestone in its commitment to reset the relationship with the sector. The BBC reports that a science, technology, engineering and maths event on the Isle of Man has had to be postponed due to transport issues. The fourth annual STEM Fest, which sees all the island's primary children take part, has been due to take place on the 23rd and 24th of October. The Department for Education said the decision to push back the event was taken due to significant logistical challenges as a result of bus driver shortages. The STEM event was designed to spark interest in the field of science and technology and allow young people to explore potential careers. The DFE on the island felt it was better to postpone rather than exclude some school, but the decision was regrettable. Schools Week reports that the Department for Education has scrapped a scheme forcing schools to opt out of receiving the optional Key Stage 1 SATs papers, which cost an estimated £1.6 million last year. In 2023 to 24, the Standards and Testing Agency required schools to opt out of receiving the SATs materials, despite them being non-statutory. As fewer than 1 in 10 primaries opted out, the DFE estimated printing costs of £1.5 million. Teacher Tap survey results showed that 60% of primary teachers would continue with the Key Stage 1 SATs. However, the STA says the papers will no longer be reprinted, but made available for download instead. Schools can order hard copies of modified test papers. The Times featured the BBC Young Musician lineup, who it says shared 2 things in common: a talent for music and the fact that none of them attend a state school. The BBC competition has run for decades and is seen as a way to get young people more involved in classical music. This year there has been some criticism of the judging of the competition and the narrow selection of finalists in terms of the instrument specialisms. No woodwind, brass or percussion players. However, the editorial piece does focus more on the fact that all 6 finalists attend private or specialist music schools. The writer Richard Morrison goes on to describe state school music teaching as a postcode lottery. He goes on to highlight previous winners of the competition who have attended state schools, but points out that even learning an instrument can be costly and that this simply excludes many young people from developing a talent over the long term. There has been much debate over the importance of the arts in schools. The BBC Young Musician competition continues to add nuance to the debate about music. Finally, the TES reports on research by the Education Policy Institute that longer days improve students' grades. Sort of. The author of the study says it shows that pupils in schools with longer days perform better, but says further research is needed into how those hours are being spent. Schools are typically open for 190 days. Academies and free schools can be more flexible. In 2022, the previous government also laid out the expectation that all schools should deliver a school week of at least 32.5 hours. The EPI research found that in 2023 to 24, 4 in 5 primary schools and 3 in 4 secondaries met the 32.5 hour minimum. The research also shows that an additional hour of secondary school time each week is associated with a 0.17 grade improvement in one subject, whilst an additional hour in primary is associated with improvements in Key Stage 2 scale scores in maths and reading. This is consistent with international research, which points to longer school weeks having modest effects on attainment. As with all research, there are plenty of caveats. Longer days does not necessarily mean longer lessons, nor what those lessons are or how balanced a curriculum might be. Past research says that additional hours have greatest effect when pupils are taught by their regular teacher. Being taught one-to-one or in a small group setting also helps. These are all costly for schools and indicative that more might only be better in certain circumstances. This has been your Teachers Talk Radio News with Jo Fox.
And we're back. Wow. I didn't expect that from the news, the fact that teachers are complaining about, student behavior again, workload, administrative workload, and the actual teaching itself. And so it's quite an interesting fact that it's actually made the news as well. I initially thought about this because I started teaching in the new term and I felt incredibly tired all the time, and I thought, is there something wrong with me? I actually went to see the nurse practitioner and discussed it. We had blood tests, we had chest x-rays, nothing, all clear. And then I fell ill and shivers, stayed in bed all week, and I tested positive for COVID, and now I feel a lot better, and it's just so strange. It's almost like, I needed to wipe out in order to be able to sort of regain my equilibrium again.
Wow.
So,
I mean, I'm glad you're feeling better, but I mean, a week having to lie in bed really
yeah,
poorly is not, we shouldn't have to get to that level, should we?
no,
But
no,
to reset.
yeah,
I'm glad you're feeling better though, Toby. I'm glad.
yeah. But there's that thing to be considered. The news has just suggested that we should be teaching longer hours, and it's like, oh man,
Yeah.
are you kidding me?
That's more work to mark and less time to mark it. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
crazy, crazy,
You know,
crazy.
I don't know. There's got there there is technology out there to make life easier. There are, we've been talking about being bodily aware, mindfulness, being aware of your body's needs, looking after them, maintaining them. Do you practice anything reflective, like journaling or anything like that?
You know what, Toby? I don't. You might have realised from my earlier comments of how I live my life that I'm not bound by a journal.
No, no.
But I reflect every single night, and I
Oh
have
wow.
shared this with some friends before. And the time that I do it is when I brush my teeth at night. Um,
Okay. All
so
right.
this is always my time when my 3 kids are in bed. I'm in the bathroom finally by myself, and what I'll do every single night without fail is when I'm brushing my teeth. So what are you meant to do? Say the alphabet 3 times. But instead of that, I reflect on 3 things. So I'll look in the mirror as well. And I think it's so important to really see yourself, to really look at yourself. So that's why I always do this, even though, by the end of a really long day teaching, like I look like some kind of, swamp witch or something, but I will look in the mirror, and while I'm brushing my teeth, I'll just look at myself, like really look at myself, see myself. Because whatever state we look like, it's still a blessing to be alive, isn't it? And to be
Oh
there, to
gosh,
see
yeah.
yourself.
Yes,
And
yes.
I'll reflect on three things. So the first one is I'll always reflect on what I'm proud of that I achieved in the day. And on our kind of quietest, worst days, even when you were poorly in bed, maybe you were just
Mm,
proud that you pulled through or that you managed to rest. So I think we can always be proud of something, even on the worst day. So I always think, what am
mm,
I
mm,
proud of?
mm, mm,
And the
mm,
second one, I think it's so important to practice gratitude. So I'll always ask myself, what am I grateful for from today? And again, even on the worst days, there is still something, even when it's a Saturday and it's rained all day and I've been stuck in the house, I'll be grateful. Actually, so good that I've got this cozy home where I could stay in the rain, So finding the gratitude even on the hardest days. And then the third
mm.
thing that I always reflect on is change. So if I did the day again, what would I change? Or moving forward, what do I think I need to change in my behavior or my habits or communication? So every single night when I brush my teeth, I think, what am I proud of? What am I grateful for? And what
Mm.
do I want to change? And honestly, Toby, I started this about 2 years ago and it's an absolute game changer.
I've got to try to remember it now. Back into my
You
mind
use your
palace.
mind, yeah, mind palace, mind palace. There's only three
The-
instead of 10 words that you're doing with your students, so you
yeah,
should be good to
no,
go.
absolutely, definitely. So, what am I proud of? What am I grateful for?
hmm
And what would I change about the
That's
day?
it. It's so
Yeah,
easy, and it
no.
literally takes 3 minutes while you're looking in the mirror, looking at yourself, thinking, "Wow, this is me. I'm amazing. I'm alive." But anyway, I'm really conscious of time. I want to tell you my other favorite thing that I do for well-being.
Okay,
Can I
go
tell
on.
you?
Go.
And particularly for anyone listening who is a teacher, because I think the problem with teaching, particularly what I found at the start of my career, is it's consuming. It's so consuming. I
Mm.
remember as a NQT as it was called, newly qualified
Yeah, yeah.
teacher,
Newly
now
qualified
ECT.
teacher. Yeah.
I remember in those first years, everything was about teaching. If I ate a yogurt, must wash the pot. I could use that for paint in art, or everything I did. Finish reading a magazine, must keep that in case we do collage. Every single thing in my home life was connected to teaching. So the main thing that I've learned as time's gone on is have a thing that isn't teaching. And here's how I frame it. If you were to meet a new person, sat next to them on a bus, or you go to an event and someone goes, "Oh, what do you do?" And I challenge you to not the first thing you say to not be, "I'm a teacher." Okay, what else could be in your life that is as big as that, if not bigger than that, that you would say? So if they said, "Oh, what do you do?" what else have you got that's big enough? Later you can say, "Oh yeah, and I'm a teacher," but what's big enough? And so the one thing for me, although mine's just not going to sound like super cool now, but for me has always been studying. And
Okay.
I told you, Toby, that I wasn't a very good student at school, but
No, no.
after training to be a teacher, I started to know myself, and I thought, "Do you know what? I want to go back into education, because I do believe in lifelong learning. Like I work at the Open University now, and you see uh, people in their 80s walking across the graduation stage, and I just think that is so admirable and amazing. I don't know if I'll be doing that, but the one thing for me, so after I'd finished my first year as an NQT, I started my first master's, and so I always used to challenge myself when people go, "What do you do?" I'd say, "Oh, I'm a master's student," and then, "Oh yeah, and I'm
Okay.
also a primary school teacher." So then after that master's, I then did my PhDs, and then go, "What do you do?" I go, "Oh, I'm a PhD student and I'm also a teacher."
Ah,
Then I just did another master's for fun. And then now I'm obviously a lecturer, but I've just started an MSc in psychology. Um,
okay. All
and
right.
so, I've got it, it's kind of a theme, it's kind of a variation on a theme. But just, whatever it is, like I also moved to the beach 3 years ago, I've got a paddle board. So, I'll say to people, "Oh, yeah, I can't quite stand with paddle boards. I have to sit down or kneel. I can't stand up." But what could you say if people really asked you, "What do you do?" Just to have something else. And I think for well-being, that is the best thing because it just reminds you teaching isn't everything, and
No, no.
having your passion or a hobby or whatever it is. For me, it's studying, but whatever it is, and to challenge yourself to not just pigeonhole yourself as a teacher, but remember you're so much more than that. And be proud in having that other part of your identity. For me, that is the pinnacle of well-being.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order. Happy reading.
Are you a teacher who has concerns about your students' low reading levels? Are you also worried disadvantaged students won't be able to catch up? The online reading development program, Dreambox Reading Plus, adapts to a student's skill level, accelerates reading progress, and helps students acquire a wide vocabulary. The patented technology develops reading fluency and supports the transition to increased text complexity from Key Stage 2 to Key Stage 3 and 4, where language and vocabulary are more challenging. You can try the program with a free 4-week pilot today. Search Reading Solutions UK to find their website and request your free pilot.
How do we stop teachers marking books on their kitchen table on a Sunday night instead of wanting to spend time with their family? Is live marking truly cutting-edge practice? What if I told you that I could provide evidence of verbal feedback and its impact on student outcomes? Now, traditional marking, time and time again, is reported as the #1 reason why teachers leave the profession. It trumps behaviour issues and teacher salary. In Guide to Feedback, I share 9 case study skills that demonstrate 9 different ways to provide marking and feedback, all evidenced by student outcomes. Now, not every school will be ready for this, but hopefully you are ready to start your Feed Up and Feed Forward journey.
The Teacher Toolkit Guide to Feedback is out now, and you can get an exclusive 30% discount when you order Teacher Toolkit Guide to Feedback from Bloomsbury.com. Just use the code TTRGTF at the checkout. That's TTRGTF, and it expires 30th of November. Happy reading.
Do you ever wish you could sit down with other teachers and delve into the challenges and opportunities we face? Well, that's exactly what Table Talks at Bet UK is all about. Join small roundtable discussions based on your selected topics to share insights, learn from peers, and tackle the big issues in education, all in a sponsor-free environment. This is your chance to connect and collaborate like never before. Be part of the conversation at Bet UK in January 2025. Visit uk.betshow.com to learn more.
Wow, the hour has literally flown by. We've looked so briefly. Well, you finished off by saying, if a total stranger said, "And what do you do?" and you mentioned, "I'm a student." Well, I'm going to share mine. I'm a motorcycle instructor.
What? Don't drop a bombshell before we have to finish the show. What?
I am a motorcycle instructor. I train people to ride up to 125 cc's on a day's basis, and I also train them to take their full motorcycle test.
Oh my goodness.
And I've been
Are
doing
you
that for
serious?
16 years. Yeah, 16 years. I've been training people to ride motorbikes.
Cool.
Yeah.
I love this.
Yeah.
So I love that teaching, but in a very different, much faster, more dangerous setting.
Much more exciting.
So cool.
But it is. That's
amazing.
you were talking about having a change, and I've sort of stepped out of my comfort zone, but not entirely. I'm still teaching, I'm still looking, but it's the verbal feedback and the coaching skills and everything else sort of wrapped up into one very, very swiftly, very, very quickly. What are you doing? What can I do to help? How can I move you along so that you can, by the end of the day, you can put on L plates on a motorbike and ride it out of the showroom, knowing that you're going to be safe and
Wow.
well looked after. Yeah. So
I
that's
love
mine.
it. But
Yeah,
how often, Toby, when people say, what do you do? How often do you open with that?
I don't. I say I'm a, I'm a,
I mean, and there's nothing wrong with it.
I'm a
I want to say
teacher.
there's absolutely nothing wrong. Like we should be proud to be teachers. There's absolutely nothing wrong
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
wanting to
Yeah.
say I'm a teacher, because I do think it's such an amazing profession. But yeah, how cool, you just pulled that out of your back pocket, and I think that's really cool, because that just shows, that we're people outside of the classroom, and I think too often our students see us just as these teachers in the classroom, but being able to start a sentence saying that you're a motorcycle instructor, like, how cool is that? It just really shows you're something bigger than
Yes.
just a teacher. I mean, that's coming across wrong. I don't think than just teachers. I think teachers are awesome. Obviously, I am one. But do you know what I'm saying? Like, it also reminds you how much you offer the world. I think that's what I'm getting at. And that's good for anyone, isn't it?
I was just thinking there was another one, and this used to really get the students buzzing. I used to be a blood runner because you've figured out I'm a biker. I'm a
I mean, I guessed
motorcyclist.
it as you teach
So,
it.
yeah, and a blood runner ferries blood from the blood centre in Tooting to hospitals across Surrey and London in the middle of the night.
Whoa.
That's what,
Wow.
yeah, I used to do that, but it just got so hard because, I used to do sort of like quite a few runs in one night, and I said, what, I can't do it anymore. But when I did it and I was able to share that with learners, I think there was something, I don't know why they were so interested in it. And when we're talking 16-year-olds that it's their job not to be interested,
Yes. No, but it is very cool. I just feel really, this is bad for my well-being that you're telling about all these really cool things just before we finish the conversation. Like, I have so many unanswered questions.
I know, I know, I know.
That's right. You know what they say, always leave them wanting more. So I'm sure you definitely leave in me and the listeners wanting more. Well, I feel like I'm going to invite myself back on in the future, just to talk
You're
about
right.
all your really cool hobbies
But no,
and past.
but we've got a couple of good things out of today. I mean, quite a few good things. I loved your affirmations while you're brushing your teeth. I
The
shall never.
perfect time,
Yeah.
yes.
What are
Because
you
it's one thing
proud
we
of?
must do. It's
Yeah.
one thing we must do every
Yeah.
night. And it's
Yeah.
so easy to think, I'm going to go for a run this morning or whatever, and then it's raining, you don't go. But brushing your teeth, and for anyone listening, we know it's very important to have good oral hygiene. So yeah, it's the one thing you're going to make time for. You're going to be alone for, hopefully, probably. So it's the one space that I have that's just mine, and I really
Yeah.
just make time for that.
Yeah.
I've not got to worry, where's a pen, where did I put the journal? For me, that wouldn't work because I'd lose them every time. But brushing my teeth with a mirror, I can do that. It's simple. Yeah, what are you proud of that you've done? And really think about you as well. It's so easy to think, I'm so proud that my friend did this, my students did this, my child did this. But think, what have you done? And what are you grateful for? And what would you change? And it's so powerful. So yeah, I hope,
Hmm, hmm,
listeners, that you
hmm,
will
hmm,
try it,
hmm,
and
hmm.
do let me know if it worked for you. Toby, I hope
Yeah.
you're going to try it. Tell Mrs. Toby as well, please.
I will indeed. Poppy, thank you so much for today. It's
Thank
been great,
you.
Um, as I'm going to end it by asking, and what's your freshest takeaway from what you've just done, from what you've just discussed for the last hour? What are you going to take
Oh,
away with you? What's
all right, all
live
right.
in you?
Because I must admit, for my well-being, I do eat a lot of takeaways, but I realise you don't mean
No, no,
mean
no,
that,
no.
because that is very good for me, not cooking and just ordering takeout. Um, yeah, I guess. I think it comes back to identity, right? I think that's been the thread of everything we've spoken about tonight.
Mm,
Is about
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
identity and being open to change, but also being proud of who we are. And I think well-being comes through being content. And I think whatever it is that makes you content, for you, it was driving a motorbike in the middle of the night with bags of blood or boxes of blood. Again, I don't have time to ask you in so many details. I want to know. And I keep imagining, like, heaven forbid, if you had an accident, like what that's going to look like on the road with the blood. Like, my mind's in overdrive. But yeah, I guess it's just be content, and whatever that is for you. And it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. It doesn't matter what society
No.
thinks. Be content. Change year group, change school, start teaching adults, start teaching younger children, do whatever you want, leave teaching, whatever it is, to just be content. That's really all there is. It's so simple. Be
Yeah.
content.
Be content.
That's it. Just be content.
Yeah.
And I just want to say thank you, because it's not often that I'm smiling at 10 o'clock on a Wednesday night. I'm normally been saying happy hump day all day and feeling like I'm wishing it's the weekend. But thank you, because this has
No,
actually
not
been
at all.
good for my well-being, just to reflect on how we can stay happy and healthy. So thank you, Toby, and thank
Not
you
at
everyone
all.
who's listened in as well. It's been super
Thank
fun.
you, everybody who's listening in. Thank you, Poppy. And good night, everybody. Have a good one.
Good night. Bye.
Good night. Bye.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.